The Legend of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Part 1, Chapter 3, Sewers. She carefully ascended the stairs, passing the shoe repair shop on the ground floor as she went. "Good morning, Professor Honeycutt," she greeted to the plump woman behind the desk on the far side of the room. The woman was wearing an eye patch which made her look like a cross between a serious badass and a bit of a dried-up joke. Her hair was short and was a strange mix of streaks of white, black and ginger, as if she had got halfway through dyeing her hair twice and given up prematurely both times. She was wearing a purple turtleneck jumper. The workshop was littered with gadgets and tools that stood proud on tables and wooden benches. These included stitching materials, wrenches and spanners, among other metal implements. A body of brown and black coated the walls where shoe upon shoe had been stacked haphazardly, patiently awaiting repair. She moved to greet the girl back and hit her head briefly on the shelf above her and then proceeded to wave. "Hello there, how is everything?" she hailed back in a southern English accent. "To be honest, I don't know. I best talk to you later as I'm running a bit late." "Okay, see you around, my dear." She smiled, returning her attention to a pair of old boots in front of her. "Hi, sorry I'm late," April called out as she entered the apartment. "Busy with work. You'll have to come into my office to talk to me," her dad answered. "Your lunch is on the table," her mum responded. April had been right. They were too wrapped up in their own boring worlds to notice her absence, or that they were offering her lunch at 10:15 a.m. April's apartment had a warm and cosy look about it. The floors were carpeted light cream, and there were 2 3-seater and cosy recliners in a colour like white chocolate. The walls were painted a neutral green, and there were several bookcases filled with heavy and well-worn novels and non-fiction works. The family room was connected to a modern and sleek kitchen, and from this were 4 doors to the additional rooms. Pictures were hung around the apartment of April, her parents, and their family and friends. Several portraits and china plates of cats were hung around the apartment, and an actual plump black, white and ginger patchy-coloured pet cat sat perched on the windowsill looking out over the city. Her eyes following the cars and people below, yet her ears rotating constantly from side to side, as if listening to every sound in the apartment. She had a bushy tail that swished in the air around her, like a feather duster. April's immediate action was to go to her bedroom and sit on her bed, just absorbing everything. She still failed to believe it had all been real. April had to find out more. If it was not real, then she needed to understand what it was. If it was real, then she would need to go back and see if she could help him. She didn't know what with, she just knew that he needed help. Besides, she wanted to escape and have an adventure into the unknown. Anything was better than having to explain to her parents that she had been gone for several hours, and them not even bothering to ask why. So, at 2 a.m, April left her apartment for the sub-zero night air. The streets of New York seemed blanketed by darkness, creating an air of mystery, and in April's case, anticipation. The main issue with her plan was that she had little idea where in the sewers she had been with the green boy. April had brought with her a plastic battery-operated flashlight, a map of the New York sewer system. Why her dad had this hanging up in his office she had no idea, as she tried to ignore what her parents were saying half the time, mainly as revenge for them not taking the time to listen to her, and her khaki-coloured backpack, which contained her cell phone, spare keys to her apartment, and a bottle of water. Based on what she had seen, she would be looking for a small open space unused for some time. It must be between 2 and 4 miles away from Laird Middle School, where she attended, based on how long she had sprinted in the sewers and where she had rejoined the surface at. A decommissioned sewerage plant that was 3.2 miles away from her school attracted her attention, as it featured several small and large rooms. And once she had her bearings, April was on her way and nothing would stop her. She then slipped on a patch of hardened snow and landed with a thud, thankfully not hurting herself. Okay, maybe not being careful and breaking her leg would stop her, but other than that, nothing. She carried on with her journey at a much slower and careful pace, determined not to seriously injure herself and put the adventure of her lifetime in jeopardy. As she wasn't in a rush or full of adrenaline this time, she found the manhole cover much more difficult to move. Just when she was about to go home and get something to pry the plate off, she was lucky enough to see two shady-looking men discard a crowbar in a dumpster, and she used this to open the passage into the sewers. As the men strolled on into the night, April heard them laugh. The smaller one snorted like a hog, and the bigger one gave a haughty, roar-like laugh as if he was a great lumbering beast. April tried not to think about why they might be laughing and what they had used the crowbar for as she slipped it inside her khaki-coloured backpack. Later that night, and deep underground, April was halfway there. Or possibly further away from her goal than when she had started. Did she have the map upside down? It was impossible to tell in the dark of the menacing and mysterious sewer tunnels. She attempted to see the map more clearly by holding the torch in her mouth and smoothing the map out with her now free hands. Then she dropped it. Great. The map had floated straight into a puddle. She tried to retrieve it, but the paper disintegrated in her hands and ceased to exist in a usable way. Maybe she should have stayed at home. She was unhappy at how filthy her shoes were getting. She was quite literally and metaphorically in deep. She heard a voice. Then another. Both sounded about her age and male. Neither belonged to the boy who she had previously met. Were there more mutants down here? A family or an army? Were they planning on taking over the world, or were they just wanting to be left alone in peace? She followed the voices until she reached a maze of rusty pipes, and her flashlight beam was lost in what could have been infinite darkness. She heard one voice very close to her say, "Right, Leo, I'm on a roll today, so do not waste your energy trying to hide. I can sense you." Suddenly, she felt something bump into her. Once again, she screamed very loudly and, out of surprise, dug her nails rather deeply into whatever it was.